In the Western imagination, the wilderness has long been depicted as a place of danger and disorientation, a place where one might easily lose their way, or worse, their life. Stories abound of European settlers wandering off trail, explorers disappearing into the unknown, and early colonists perishing in forests they didn't understand. Yet, for thousands of years, long before any map was drawn, the original peoples of North America traversed these very same lands with extraordinary confidence and clarity. The question is not only how Native American tribes avoided getting lost, but why they never thought of themselves as lost to begin with. To understand this, we must step beyond GPS signals and satellite images and enter a world where orientation was not just a matter of survival, it was a sacred relationship with the land. This is the story of ancestral wisdom, oral geography, environmental literacy, and spiritual alignment. This is the story of why Native American tribes never got lost in the wilderness. A sacred view of the land. For most Native American cultures, the concept of wilderness as something untamed or separate from civilization simply didn't exist. The land wasn't an adversary or an obstacle. It was kin. The Lakota, for instance, viewed the land as a living relative. They didn't just walk the earth, they walked with it. Forests weren't unmarked, they were saturated with meaning. A bend in the river, a particularly shaped stone, the position of the sun, all held significance. In many tribal languages, there are no exact words for wilderness, nature, or even environment as we understand them. That's because these cultures didn't see themselves as separate from the land. They were part of an integrated ecosystem, spiritually, practically, and culturally. Oral geography. Remembering the land through story and song. Long before maps, roads, or written directions, Native Americans developed highly sophisticated methods of remembering and navigating terrain. Oral geography. The practice of embedding navigational knowledge in songs, stories, and ceremonial traditions was central to this. Among the Hopi, Zuni, and other southwestern tribes, songs were used to teach children about migration routes, seasonal landmarks, and sacred paths. These weren't just memory tricks. They were immersive methods of learning. By singing the story of a trail, one internalized its rhythms. A river bend became a stanza. A hilltop became a refrain. And because these traditions were passed down orally, knowledge was always alive, always moving, always contextualized in living relationships. It was not learned from books, but from the voices of elders, the patterns of the stars, and the shape of the wind. Environmental literacy, reading the signs of the earth. Navigation was not just about direction, it was about awareness. The land spoke, and those who knew how to listen were never truly lost. Tracks in the soil, the scent of crushed sage underfoot, the behavior of animals, each offered clues. For example, if birds suddenly grew silent, something was near. If a certain plant bloomed early, the season had shifted. If the wind carried pollen from a distant pine, rain was coming. Among the Apache, young boys were trained in reading the trail as a rite of passage. This included identifying the freshness of footprints, the direction of broken twigs, and the faint echo of calls across canyon walls. This environmental literacy extended to the smallest details: the tilt of a tree, the direction of moss growth, the type of insects present in the morning versus the evening. All this, to the trained eye, was information. To outsiders, it was invisible. Celestial navigation, guided by the stars. Night travel held its own science. Many tribes, such as the Pawnee and Anasazi, were adept astronomers. Their ceremonial calendars were aligned with solstices and equinoxes, and they knew how to travel using the position of stars. The Milky Way, sometimes called the Path of Souls, was seen as both a spiritual and physical guide. Stars didn't just shine, They told time, indicated seasons, and pointed toward specific geographies. For instance, the rising of the Pleiades might signal the time to begin a seasonal migration. The position of Venus might help locate an important water source. These celestial patterns were studied, remembered, and passed down like family heirlooms. Spiritual waypoints. Landmarks as living guides. Unlike modern navigation systems which rely on abstract coordinates, Native American navigation often involved sacred landmarks. These were not chosen randomly. They were part of spiritual geographies. A tree bent in a certain direction by generations of travelers. A cliff that resembled a great buffalo spirit. A cave where wind made an ancient song. These weren't just waypoints. They were woven into mythologies and identities. Among the Ojibwe, certain rocks were believed to house spirits and could speak through the wind. Among the Navajo, hogans, traditional homes, were oriented toward the east to honor the rising sun. These natural features grounded the people, not just physically, but spiritually. One did not get lost when every landmark reminded you of who you were. Community memory, shared knowledge, shared direction. Orientation was not just personal, it was communal. Knowledge was shared, reinforced, and practiced together. Children were taught navigation through games and stories. Teenagers learned to recognize the migration patterns of animals and the seasonal changes in plants. Elders ensured continuity by recounting journeys during winter storytelling. There was no need to consult an app. The community was the map. Everyone carried a piece of the whole, and because knowledge was redundant and layered, no single person was the sole bearer of direction. A different definition of being lost. In modern times, to be lost is often seen as a failure of technology or a breakdown in communication. But to Native Americans, being lost had a very different connotation. To be lost was not simply to lack direction. It was to forget one's relationship to the land. It was a spiritual disconnection, not a geographic one. When you belong to the land belongs to you. You move through it not as a stranger, but as kin. You know where you are, not because of signs, but because of story, ritual, and presence. To be truly found was to be in right relationship with the earth, with the ancestors, and with the moment. Reclaiming ancestral intelligence. Today, satellites orbit our skies, and smartphones lead us step by step with artificial voices and digital arrows. Yet somehow, despite all this guidance, we feel more lost than ever. Spiritually adrift, emotionally numb, and ecologically disconnected, as if we've strayed too far from something essential. The traditional knowledge of Native American tribes offers us more than ancient survival tactics. It offers a mirror, a reflection of how deeply we've forgotten our relationship with the earth, and an invitation to remember who we truly are. This wisdom was not written in textbooks or coded into apps. It was etched into riverbeds, whispered by the wind, sung by elders, and carried by every footstep taken in harmony with the land. The wilderness is not a place to be feared or dominated. It is not a void to be mapped and claimed. It is a living story, one written by the ancestors, still speaking, if only we're willing to listen. Those who came before us were never lost, because they walked with purpose, with reverence, and most importantly, with connection. Let us walk again, not in search of escape, but in search of reconnection. Let us reclaim that ancestral intelligence, not just to find our way through the forest, but to find our way back to ourselves. If this story moved you, if it sparked even a small moment of reflection, please consider supporting this journey by liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and sharing it with others who might need to hear this. This is a new channel, and every like, comment, and subscription helps bring these forgotten stories back into the light. Thank you for walking with us.